If someone blocked your driveway with 3 black SUVs, wearing neon vests, waving clipboards, shouting that you weren't allowed to enter your own land, what would you do? What if their leader was a power-hungry HOA woman? The kind who strutted around in a bright pink blazer and floral blouse like she owned the entire ridge. Now imagine you slowly rolling up in your truck, cameras pointed, accusations ready, voices rehearsed, but they had no idea someone else was watching them the whole day. Someone they should have never provoked. This is where everything went wrong for them. If you love real-life HOA revenge stories, hit that subscribe button. It really helps keep these stories coming. I stepped onto my porch that morning with a half-empty coffee mug and a to-do list that looked more like a hardware store scavenger hunt. The fog drifted over the lake in thin silver sheets. The kind of calm that makes you forget the world can turn ugly fast. No engines, no tourists, and most importantly, no HOA activity. Living on private land teaches you one thing: silence is safety. Ranger, my old shepherd mix, sniffed the air. Tail relaxed. Everything was normal. If only I had known what was happening up the ridge, in a freshly cleaned garage, surrounded by maps, folding tables, and one very angry HOA president named Karen Duval, the self-appointed queen of the lake. Overweight, wrapped tight in her trademark pink blazer, floral blouse bursting at the seams, and pearls that rattled when she moved. She was hosting an emergency HOA coordination meeting. Her mission, mate, she tapped a marker on a poster board like she was briefing FEMA before a hurricane. He refuses cooperation, she barked, nostrils flaring. Her committee nodded like Bob. One man whispered, "But his land isn't in the HOA." Karen's stare silenced him instantly. This wasn't about rules. It was about ego. And today, she planned to show the community her authority. I texted my buddy John before leaving. Running into town, back by sunset. A simple message, but it ended up being the reason everything was caught on camera. The ridge stayed quiet. 2 Keat. Hours later, while I stood in line buying hydraulic hoses and deck screws, John rolled up to my property to drop off a water gauge and instantly sensed something was off. Fresh tire tracks, boot prints overlapping, a white survey stake. That definitely wasn't mine. Loose dirt near the ditch, like someone had tested a shovel. Tina saw a black SUV up on the ridge, watching, then sliding away. John wasn't the panicking type. Force Recon Marines rarely are. He typed me a warning text. It didn't send "no service," so John settled into the trees, waiting like a guard dog with patience carved from stone. That's when the first SUV returned, then a second, then a third. Doors open-ed. Neon vests spilled out, and waddling behind them, HOA President Karen Duval herself. Floral blouse, swaying, clipboard in hand, sunglasses perched high, like she was leading a federal raid. They carried cones, caution tape, a fake electrical hazard box, survey stakes, and a teenage boy holding a foam neck brace like a prop. John whispered, "This is going to be stupid." He filmed everything from cover, the fake installations, the staged photos, Karen barking orders while adjusting her too-tight blazer, sweating through her floral blouse as she rehearsed the injury scene. And I was still an hour from home, thinking the day would be easy, because when I finally turned down my gravel road and saw their blockade, the SUV, the cones, the cameras, and Karen standing proudly in front like she was directing traffic, I realized I wasn't Dr. Fordinghome. I was driving straight into an ambush they'd rehearsed for hours. Some people try to look powerful. Others try to act powerful. But when entitlement mixes with fear, the result is chaos. And I drove straight into it. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, because what comes next is the kind of HOA insanity you won't believe without hearing. The sun was dipping low when I turned off the main highway and onto my gravel road. Ranger lifted his head from the back seat, ears raised, rumbling a low growl that matched the uneasy pulse running up my spine. At first, I thought nothing of it. Long day, tired dog, tired man. Then I rounded the bend, and the world in front of me just stopped. 3 black SUVs sat parked sideways across my driveway like they were sealing a crime scene. Bright orange cones littered the ground. Yellow caution tape fluttered between metal stakes hammered into my soil. And standing dead center, arms crossed, wearing her signature bright pink blazer and floral blouse stretched under the evening sun, was HOA, Queen Karen Duval, the self-appointed ruler of the lake shore. Behind her, 6 neon vest-wearing volunteers fumbled around holding cell phones upright, already recording. To their right sat a teenage boy on a cooler, wearing a foam neck brace 2 sizes too big. Chewing gum like this was a rehearsal for a school play. I let the truck roll forward until my bumper kissed the first cone. Clipboard guy, their sweaty, red-faced commander, slapped my hood like it was a courtroom gavel. "Stop! This is a restricted safety zone." I lowered my window halfway. "Not for him. For evidence." "Explain," I said. He puffed up like a pigeon. "There is a hazardous violation on your property. Until our inspection is complete, you are not authorized to enter." "My property," I repeated slowly. "Yes," he said proudly. "Your cooperation is mandatory. Please reverse your vehicle and wait for authorization." Behind him, someone whispered loudly to the camera, "He's escalating." I hadn't moved a muscle. That's when I saw her Karen shifting her weight. Floral blouse rustling, pearls tapping against her chest as she lifted her chin like she was about to crown herself Empress of Lakeview. She gave me a smug, tight-lipped smile. "Compliance is expected," she said, "for community safety." Right then, I knew this wasn't confusion. This was an ambush. They had practiced all day, and they'd made one fatal mistake. They didn't know John was already here. A voice drifted from my right, calm, deep, quiet as morning steel. "Don't say another word to him." The HOA crew stiffened. I didn't even have to look. I knew that voice. John stepped out of the shadows beside a cedar tree, phone in one hand, eyes steady, jacket hanging open enough to show he was unafraid of all 7 of them combined. Karen physically flinched when she saw him. Clipboard guy squeaked, "You again!" "I told you to leave." John didn't answer him. He walked to my passenger side, checked me over with the kind of quick scan soldiers never forget, then nodded. "You good?" "Getting there," I said. He turned back to the blockade. His expression didn't change. His body language didn't rise. He simply stepped closer. Hands relaxed at his sides, the same stance every Marine learns before someone makes a mistake. "This isn't an inspection," he said quietly. "This is a blockade. On private land." The kid in the neck brace froze. Karen's eyes flared. The volunteer shifted like grocery bags, caught in the wind. "Move your vehicles," John said. "You've got 5 seconds." The whole ridge went silent. 5. One of the young volunteers swallowed. 4. The teenage boy whimpered. 3. Everything in Karen's posture cracked. 2. Back-eyed up. "Back-eyed up right now," someone screamed. SUV. Doors slammed. Reversing tires spit gravel. Cones bounced. Caution tape ripped off stakes. Their perfect little checkpoint crumbled like wet cardboard. A narrow lane opened. John stepped aside. Roads open. I idled forward, but I wasn't 10 feet in before Clipboard guy snapped, running toward John, hands out, yelling, "You can't go." He shoved John with both palms, a mistake with a lifespan of under 1 second. John hooked his wrist, shifted weight, turned his hip. Clipboard guy was airborne, then face down, gasping into the dirt. Phones dropped. 2 volunteers screamed. The teenage boy forgot he was supposed to look injured. John didn't move toward him, just stood over him. "Don't put your hands on people," he said quietly, "especially the wrong one." And then, in the distance, a siren low, growing, unavoidable. Karen's face drained of color. She had rehearsed everything except this, because when Sheriff Bowman stepped out of that cruiser and saw the cones, the fake vests, the staged injury, and Karen sweating through her pink blazer, The HOA stopped pretending. Now they had to face consequences. When the law shows up, everyone learns real fast who actually has authority and who was just pretending. If you're into real HOA justice stories, hit subscribe. This one's about to explode. The siren wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. That slow, steady wail rolling up the ridge was enough to drain what little color was left in Karen Duval's face. Her floral blouse fluttered in the wind like it was trying to escape her body. The volunteers stiffened, frozen in place like toddlers who had been caught drawing on walls with permanent markers. Sheriff Bowman's cruiser rolled into view, dust swirling around the tires. No lights, no rush, just the calm confidence of a man who had dealt with nonsense for decades and was already tired of it. He stepped out, shut the door with a heavy clunk, and scanned the scene. Cones scattered. Caution tape torn. Fake neon safety vests. One grown man face down, wheezing in gravel. A kid with a crooked neck brace. And Karen, sweating through her bright pink blazer, tugging at the floral blouse underneath like she was trying to hide the panic rising in her chest. The sheriff exhaled through his nose. Impersonating an officer, blocking a county road, and assault. He shook his head. You boys woke up, wanting to go to jail today, didn't you? Not a single volunteer spoke. One swallowed so hard I heard it from the truck. Bowman turned to me. You all right? I nodded. Then he turned to John. You. John nodded once. Good, Bowman said. Now, let's deal with this circus. Before the sheriff could take 2 steps toward the detained wannabe commander still on the ground, John lifted a hand. Sheriff, he said, before anything else, you should see this. He held out his phone. The ridge fell silent. Bowman took it, pressed play. The first video showed for volunteers. Neon vests, bright and ridiculous, climbing my utility pole and bolting on a fake hazard box. Cheap gray plastic. No markings, no paperwork, just staged evidence. Their voices were crystal clear. Angle it more. No. Karen wants it visible. Take pictures from 3 sides so the county buys it. Sheriff Bowman's jaw shifted. Not anger. Disbelief. John swiped to the next clip. There was the teenage boy with a foam neck brace, laughing between takes while eating a granola bar. Then he dramatically toppled sideways into the grass as 2 adults, fake. Karen herself stood behind them, hands on her hips, sweating, barking commands. No, slower. Make it look painful. Jason, stop smiling. If we report injury, he'll be liable. Bowman didn't blink. He simply muttered, Jesus. Then came the 3rd video. The checkpoint, the cones. The barricade, Karen pacing dramatically in her blazer, giving orders like she was running a SWAT team. Stand your record. Everything. Push him until he reacts. And finally, clipboard guy shoving John. Bowman watched it all. Then he handed the phone back, his face settling into a hardness that could split stone. He walked toward the volunteers. You weren't just playing security guards, he said. You were staging violations, manufacturing evidence, coordinating harassment, and tampering with utility structures. He pointed at the teenage boy. And putting a fake injury on a minor. That's a felony-level problem. Karen stepped forward, pearl necklace rattling across her chest. Sheriff, this is all out of context. Bowman lifted a single finger. She froze mid. Miss Duval, he said coldly, say one more word, and the first set of cuffs goes on you. Her mouth snapped shut so fast I heard her teeth click. Behind her, 2 volunteers whimpered. One lifted a shaky hand. Sheriff, we didn't mean. Save it! Bowman barked. All of you. Hands where I can see them. They obeyed instantly. Karen stared at them in horror, because she expected loyalty. But in that moment, every board member, every volunteer, every self-appointed HOA guard realized exactly what she had turned them into. Criminals. And they weren't willing to go to jail for her. Bowman radioed in. Dispatch. I need 2 additional units. Evidence, techs, and the DA's duty investigator. We've got coordinated fraud, utility tampering, and criminal staging on scene." Karen let out a strangled gasp. Her floral blouse heaved. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was the start of a criminal investigation. Because when the backup units arrived, and Bowman told Karen she might be charged personally, she didn't break quietly. She detonated. Power doesn't reveal character. Pressure does. And when pressure finally hit Karen Duvall, she didn't crack. She exploded. If you're following this wild HOA collapse, tap subscribe, because this is where the Queen of Pink Blazers completely loses control. We heard her before we saw her. A high, whining engine. One of those ridiculous luxury golf carts the HOA swore were eco-friendly emergency vehicles. Sharp, panicked, furious, like a broken whistle cutting through gravel. Karen swung around the bend so fast her cart nearly tipped onto two wheels. She braked hard, sending a wave of dust over everyone, including the deputies slowly lining the ridge. When the dust settled, there she stood, bright pink blazer, popping like a neon error message. Floral blouse, stretched tight across her chest. Designer sunglasses perched on her forehead like a plastic crown, sweat streaking her foundation. She looked like a storm wearing pearls. "What is happening here?" she screeched. Sheriff Bowman didn't rush. He finished cuffing clipboard guy, then finally turned to face her. "Afternoon, Miss Duvall," he said flatly. "You picked a hell of a time to show up." Karen's eyes darted from the handcuffs to the evidence pouches on the cruiser hood. Then to me, then to John. And when she saw John standing there calm, arms crossed, something in her face twisted with absolute hatred. "What did you do to them?" she demanded at me. I raised an eyebrow. "Nothing. Liar," she snapped. "They said you attacked them. They said your friend assaulted my officers." John let out a slow, quiet breath that was almost a laugh. Bowman stepped between us. "Ma'am," he said, "these men are not officers. They're volunteers who illegally staged a blockade, fabricated evidence, and trespassed onto private property." Karen blinked fast, as if trying to process language she'd never heard before. That's ridiculous." Her voice cracked. "We were conducting a community safety operation," Bowman deadpanned, "on land you don't own? Without legal authority? With fake uniforms." Karen opened her mouth, but nothing came out, except a sound like a choked cough. She tried again. "Our HOA has power to conduct wellness checks and access inspections on HOA properties." Bowman cut in. "His land," she jabbed a finger at me, "affects the community." "That's not how law works," Bowman replied. She stomped forward until she was practically chest-tubage with him, floral blouse shifting with every heavy breath. "Sheriff, you need to arrest him immediately. He's dangerous. He attacked my son. My son came home injured. Bleeding. You could have heard a pine needle drop." Bowman didn't blink. "Your son shoved him. It's on video. Twice." Karen froze. "Someone," Bowman continued, "forgot to cut the footage before uploading it to TikTok." Her face went sheet white. Her jaw trembled. Her pink blazer suddenly looked 2 sizes too small. But then she found her weapon of choice: denial. "I don't care what your videos show," she snarled. "I am the president of this community, and I demand." Bowman raised his hand. "Miss Duvall, you aren't demanding anything today. You're 1 step away from being detained." "Detained!" she shrieked. "On what grounds?" "Oh, I don't know." Bowman began counting on his fingers. "Obstruction, conspiracy, attempted fraud, directed staging of a false injury, tampering with utility equipment. Take your pick." Karen's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again like a stuck screen door. Finally, something inside her snapped. "You don't understand," she screamed, voice cracking. "I keep order here. I maintain standards. Everyone depends on me. He is ruining everything." She pointed at me like she was naming the villain of her personal tragedy. You? She spat. You think you can hoard shoreline like some territorial dog? You don't belong here. I make the rules. John stepped forward, just one slow step, but enough to make 3 volunteers flinch and Karen stumble backward. Bowman tightened his jaw. Ma'am, he warned, step away from them. No, Karen barked. I will not let him. Click. The sound of handcuffs opening echoed like a gunshot. Karen froze, mid-sentence. Miss Duval, Bowman said. Turn around. You're being detained, pending investigation. Karen gasped. You can't do this. Bowman said nothing. He simply took her wrists and clicked the cuffs on. What followed wasn't a breakdown. It was a meltdown, she screamed. She begged. She accused. She threatened lawsuits. She threatened the county. She even threatened the deputy's pension. Nothing worked. As Bowman guided her toward the cruiser, she wailed. This isn't how it's supposed to go. Bowman Seagate. Ma'am, I'm starting to think nothing you plan goes the way you think it will. He shut the cruiser door. The Ridge exhaled. The queen of the HOA had finally been removed from her throne. Because court wasn't the Huskomminit was coming fast, and Karen didn't walk into that courtroom as a leader. She walked in as a defendant. You can stage a fake injury, fake authority, and even fake an entire HOA operation. But you can't fake your way past a judge. If you're enjoying how this HOA implodes, hit subscribe. This is where it gets legally lethal. Karen appeared in court the next morning, technically out on bail. Tugda Ward, released under conditions, fit her situation better. Her bright pink blazer was gone, replaced with a stiff beige suit that made her look like she'd been vacuum sealed. But her floral blouse was still there, tucked like a truce between who she thought she was and who the justice system said she was now. 2 board members followed behind her like defeated backup dancers, trying to look composed and instead looking terrified. This wasn't the criminal trial yet, just an emergency injunction hearing, but the stakes were enormous. Would the HOA lose all authority over the lakeshore? Could they ever come near my property again? Would Karen stay president? Spoiler, no. To all of that, the courtroom felt cold. The kind of cold that didn't come from a sea, but from pressure. Even the fluorescent lights flickered like they were bracing for a legal car crash. My attorney, Meredith Claiborne, sharp suit, sharper mind, leaned toward me. Remember, she whispered, stay calm and let them bury themselves. Judge Hardwick took the bench. Silver hair, weathered eyes, a man who'd probably settled more land fights than he'd had hot meals. He shuffled paperwork without looking up. Let's proceed. Karen shot out of her seat. Your Honor, before we begin, I request the immediate dismissal of all filings due to harassment, targeted aggression, and Hardwick lifted one hand. Seat and down. Karen sat so fast, her chair squealed. Meredith rose smoothly. Your Honor, we call Deputy Kyle Rowe. Deputy Rowe walked the court through everything. The roadblock, the cones, the caution tape, the fake vests, the complete lack of legal authority, the refusal to move from my driveway, the staged confrontation they were preparing. The judge nodded once, lips tightening. Next, Meredith smiled slightly. We have video evidence. I stood beside her as the first clip lit up the courtroom monitor. 4 volunteers climbing my pole, bolting a fake hazard box to my fence post. Their voices echoed through the courtroom. He won't notice. Angle it more. Take pictures for documentation. Karen's jaw clenched hard enough to crack enamel. Next clip. The staged neck injury. The teenage boy wearing the foam brace, falling sideways into the grass, while 2 grown adults pretended to gasp dramatically. The volunteers laughing between takes, Karen in the background, pink blazer flapping, yelling, no, fall slower, make it look real. The courtroom fell silent, except for the judge's pen, scratching angrily across his notes. Karen bolted up again. This is taken out of context. Sith, Judge Hardwick repeated. not raising his voice. She dropped back into her chair, like gravity doubled. Final clip. Débloqué. My truck stuck outside my own land. De cones. De cameras. The rehearsed lines. John's calm countdown. T sobe. T takedown. De meltdown. When the screen went black, the silence was heavy enough to suffocate. Judge Hardwick looked directly at Karen. Please tell me. Said slowly. You did not authorize this. Karen swallowed. I delegated responsibility to my committee. I didn't personally. Meredith stepped forward. Your Honor, we also have emails from Ms. Duvall instructing her board to, quote, push the owner until he cracks and create recordable violations, even if we have to establish them ourselves. Karen's eyes widened like she'd been slapped. Hardwick blinked hard. Those words came from you. They're out of context, she stammered. Meant. Hardwick slammed his palm on the desk. No, they mean exactly what they say. Even the board members slid away from her. The judge straightened in his seat. Effective immediately. Ms. Duvall is removed as president of the Lakeshore HOA. The HOA is prohibited from approaching the plaintiff's property, driveway, or shoreline. Any enforcement attempts within 500 feet are banned. This court is issuing a criminal referral to the county attorney for potential charges, including impersonation, conspiracy, assault, and fraud. Karen made a sound between a gasp and a sob, and finally, he said, the HOA will be placed under provisional state oversight. A full financial audit begins in 72 hours. The gavel struck wood. A crack like a gunshot. Karen slumped. Her floral blouse sagged. Everything she built, including her legal fantasy of authority, collapsed in one ruling. John clapped my shoulder. That's one way to end a presidency. I didn't smile. I just breathed. For the first time in weeks. Deeply, but deep down we both knew this wasn't even the main event. This was just the legal warm-up. Because when the state audit landed, the HOA didn't just fall apart, it burned to the ground. The mugshots, the charges, the dissolution, the final year of peace. HOAs don't usually die fast. They rot slowly. But this one, it collapsed in public, under the weight of its own lies. If you've been following the story, hit subscribe because this is the part where everything the HOA tried to hide finally comes into the light. By Thursday morning, the courthouse looked like someone had kicked a hornet nest of reporters. Microphones pointed at the front steps. Deputies walked through the crowd, carrying folders stamped with thick red labels. Criminal referral priority. Karen Duvall wasn't just an annoying HOA president anymore. She was case number 24NB in the state of Georgia. When the criminal charges were formally filed, T-list didn't read like HOA business. It read like the opening statement of a corruption trial. Impersonation of a public official, conspiracy to defraud, coordinated harassment, tampering with utility infrastructure, filing a false report, accessory to assault, obstruction, attempted coercion of a landowner, and the crown jewel charge, manufacturing fraudulent evidence. Even the judge raised his eyebrows. That afternoon, the sheriff's office released the mugshots. Karen, still trying to hold her chin up like she was posing for a driver's license renewal, except her pink blazer was gone. Her floral blouse wrinkled, and the stress had dragged half her makeup off her face. Clipboard guy looked like someone told him Santa died. The fake hazard box installer looked like he'd forgotten how breathing worked. And the stage dingery kid, still wearing the foam neck brace in the mugshot, like it didn't know whether to commit to the bit or bail out. Sheriff Bowman gave a short statement to the press. This wasn't a property dispute. This was an organized attempt to intimidate a private citizen using fabricated authority. Georgia law has no patience for that. He never said my name. He didn't need to. Everyone already knew. Then the HOA group chat leaked, screenshots everywhere. Board members panicking, begging each other to delete old messages. One text read, We need to distance ourselves from Karen. Another, can we say she acted alone? Too late. Screenshots never die. The audit hits like a hammer. The next morning, 3 unmarked Crown Victorias pulled up to the HOA clubhouse. 4 state auditors stepped out wearing gray jackets, clipboards, and the kind of expressions that make guilty people sweat. They walked in at 10 a.m. They walked out at noon with 7 boxers of financial documents, 2 desktop towers, a suspicious thumb drive, and 1 binder wrapped in red evidence tape labeled private donations. Legier, from their faces, whatever was inside wasn't donations, it was career-ending. That evening, the HOA held an emergency meeting. 10 homeowners showed up, half walked out before the meeting ended. The minutes leaked online. Motion to dissolve Lakeshore HOA due to legal liability and inability to continue operations. Passed 9-1, Karen cast a lone vote against it. From her jail cell, by the weekend, the HOA website vanished. The guard shack closed. The signs were removed, and the neighborhood's social media page posted a single line. The Lakeshore HOA has ceased all operations pending state review. People in town started calling it the HOA. That's self-instructed. The phone calls came next. One homeowner asked, "Do I still owe dues?" Another apologized for Karen's behavior. A third asked if I'd consult on their own HOA issues. Primera declined. I wasn't in the cleanup business. I just wanted peace. John came by that Sunday. He brought his so-called marine essentials. Jerky, beer, and a rusty metal sign that read, "Private land, peace enforced daily." I hung it on the boathouse. The lake was calm again. The fog, thin and soft. No HOA patrols. No kunes, no pink blazer figure marching around pretending to run a government. Whoosed water. Whoosed trees. Just quiet. Real quiet. 1 year later, a full year passes and memories dull around the edges. The lake stays blue. The ridge stays peaceful. And the old guard shack is now covered in vines. Nobody mentions Karen anymore. People pass by the abandoned HOA property the way they pass by an old, closed-down gas station with a slow headshake. Homeowners act like neighbors again. Simple, honest, normal. No feeness, no threats, no fake authority. John still visits every couple months. We sit on the porch, coffee warm in our hands, Ranger curled up at our feet. Peace isn't loud. It's gentle, steady. Tonight, I walked out to the dock. The boards creaked softly under my boots. Moonlight spilled across the lake like silver paint. I sat at the edge, feet dangling above the water, breathing it all in. No HOA. No battles. No pink blazer marching toward me. Who's the lake? Just home. Just peace. The kind you fight for once, so you never have to fight for it again.